Hi guys, Mrs. Towson here. This is the week of April 27th. We are going to start something called Mellow Mondays, which is going to be a flashback to some of our old topics. And you will have an ed site based on those flashbacks. They are weighted a little bit more. So instead of it being worth 10 points, they are worth 15 points. Because again, it is review. It shouldn't be anything that is new. So it's a great way to boost those scores. I would recommend that before you start the assignment, make sure that you have a sheet of paper, a pencil, and your calculator handy because you are going to see fractions in today's EdSite problem. I'm going to go through all of the problem types that are on that EdSite, but as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. So what you are looking at right here is a combining like term example. So some of these are so basic, and you honestly won't have anything this basic on your ed site, but just remember that when you're combining like terms, your variables have to be the same, and those variables are just those numbers. Okay, so 2x plus 10x, 12x. Again, we're not going to go through all these. It's kind of redundant. 7w plus negative 11w. Again, you will have your calculator, but without a calculator, knowing what positive and negative numbers are, we know that this is going to be negative 4w here. 6y minus y gives me a 5y. Negative 6v minus 1 plus v. So this is the first one that does not have like terms. I have my negative 6v and my positive v. And then I have a constant of a negative 1. So negative 6 plus 1 is going to give me a negative 5v. And then I'm left with my minus 1. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at another one of those. We're going to skip 5. That answer is negative 3x. I'm sorry, positive 3x. Number 6, 8y plus 3y minus 6y. That is a constant, so that's different. So I'm going to underline that. Minus 2y. That is going to be one single underline. So I'm going to combine my like terms. 8 plus 3 minus 2. 8 plus 3 is 11y. Minus 2 gives me a 9y. And what I am left with then is my negative 6. So just keeping in mind that when we are combining like terms, we can only combine things that have the same variable or have no variable. And we have to remember to keep the sign of the coefficient. Okay, so this is another type of example that you will see. This is talking about the different types of properties here. Understanding that these are something that you have learned. This is a lot of times we forget. And you do have a question like this on your ed site. So the initial question is 15. I want to know what properties allow me to do this, allow me to simplify this expression. So this goes with our expression unit because all we are doing here is simplifying this expression down to its lowest terms. So we have 15 in parentheses 3b plus 5f minus b. Remember, what this means is that this 15 is going to be multiplied by all of those things inside of the parentheses. Going back to our order of operations, we remember it's parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, and then subtract. So, well, if you notice in step 1, or that's number 1, step number 2, excuse me, the only thing that changed is the placement of my negative d and my 5f. And what allowed us to do this is actually a property called the commutative property. So the commutative property allows you to commute or move your variables around, keeping the same values. Okay, in step 3 here, we just simplified. So I combined my like terms of 3d and negative d to give me a 2d plus 5. And then in step number 4, you can see here, this is called the distributive property. What that means is I simply distributed property. The distributive property allows me to multiply that 15 by that 2d. Multiply that 15 by that 2d and multiply that 15 by the 5f in order to get 30d plus 75f. I cannot combine these anymore because those are the same variables. They are the same variables there. Okay, here's an example of that distributive property again at work. But notice this time I have a fraction. Like I said, in your ed site, it's designed to be challenging, but guys, fractions are not anything new. You have been doing fractions since 5th grade, and you have a calculator. So just make sure that you are using that ABC function on the calculator, and you are multiplying it out. Do not freak out when you see the fractions in the expression. It is the same exact thing that you are doing. We have to do what we call big boy and big girl math and use fractions now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead first, look inside the parentheses. There's nothing that can be combined. So now I'm going to be multiplying 1/4 by my 4x and 1/4 by my 8y. So when I multiply 1/4 by my 4x, I get x. And when I multiply 1/4 by negative 8y, I get negative 2y. Sorry for the lag. And I have at the end plus my 5x. For whatever reason, there's a huge lag on this. So now I'm going to combine my like terms. I have an x here and an x here. X plus 5x is 6x. And then my negative 2y. This is an x, not a y. And negative 6x, or excuse me, positive 6x minus 2y. Again, basic distributive property, nothing new here, guys. Just don't freak out when we see the fractions. And you have about 3 or 4 problems with those fractions, but you do them the same way, okay? Again, recommend having that calculator and that paper handy. All right, here is the last example that I want to show you. And in this example, I want to figure out another way to write this expression without changing the value. Okay, so I want to figure out another way to write this expression without changing the value. So when I look at this, there are many different ways that we could do this. I can make this negative 7 minus 1 minus 64x. Okay, that is changing the expression, but it's still going to hold that same value. But there's an easier way when I look at this. And when I see this, let me go ahead and erase this part down here. When I see this, I see these as two numbers that are both even. So when you have even numbers, we know that we can simply just divide by 2. So when I divide these numbers by 2, what I'm actually doing is I'm turning this now into a distributive property, because if you remember, when we distribute, we're trying to get rid of that by multiplying it. Now I'm going to put this on the outside. Now, negative 18 divided by 2 gives me a negative 9. And a negative 64 divided by 2 gives me a negative 32x. Now, I look at this again and I think, hang on a second, both these are negative. Let's get rid of both these negatives and turn this into a positive. So we're going to now bring that negative number on the outside. We're multiplying that by the 2 that we have. And we get negative 2, 9 plus 32x. Don't know what's happening. Okay, there we go. 9 plus 32x. So those are all the examples, guys, that you will see in your ed site today. Again, this is review on expressions. If you need more help or would like me to post anything directly to you, please feel free to send me an email and we will make sure we get that done. As always, if you need anything, just let me know, guys.